Be recorded.
Good evening. Today is Wednesday, December 13th. A little bit of feedback, 2023. It's 6:30 p.m. This is the Auburn Finance Committee meeting at the Auburn Town Hall. I'm going to read the remote participation script. This open meeting of the Town of Auburn Finance Committee is being conducted both in person and remotely, consistent with Chapter 107 of the Acts of 2022, which suspends the requirement of the open meeting law to have all meetings in a publicly accessible physical location. Further, all members of public bodies are allowed to participate remotely as long as reasonable public access is afforded so that the public can follow along with the deliberations of the meeting. For the public to join the meeting remotely by telephone, it's 1-786-535-3211 with an access code of 991-599-357. Or the public can join via computer at global.go-to-meeting.com/join/991-599-357. All supporting materials that have been provided to members of this body are available on the town's website. The public is encouraged to follow along using the posted agenda. Please permit me to confirm that all members and persons anticipated on the agenda participating. Our president can hear me. I don't believe we have any members that are appearing remotely. We have tonight Ed Coleman.
Here.
Michael Marshall.
Here.
George Graham.
Here.
And Stephen Consivitive.
Yeah.
Town officials, employees participating, Town Manager Ed Kaznovich.
Present.
CFO, Town Accountant Karen Harnois.
Present.
And Administrative Assistant Sharon Krakowski. Yes, I'm sorry, I'll let one out, that the meeting is also being recorded by the Auburn Cable Television. Tonight's agenda includes a review of some, and vote on some departmental transfer requests. I think we're gonna move that one out of order. We have a discussion and voting on a recommendation by the town accountant, CFO, to approve transfers up to $250, and a vote on the amendment to the free cash policy. We've got some minutes, and then ultimately we'll adjourn the meeting. If nobody has any objections, I think we would like to move to number 4, discussion about an amendment to the free cash policy. Okay?
Mr. Chairman, members of the Finance Committee, thank you for the opportunity to bring this item before you tonight. And thank you for your consideration on moving it up. I want to let you know that the Board of Selectmen voted to amend the free cash policy at their meeting on Monday night. This request is being asked of both the Finance and the Board of Selectmen to consider a one-time amendment to our existing free cash policy that would allow us to free up roughly $4 million in change for a land acquisition that we are pursuing for the consideration of a fire headquarters on the west side of town. This property is located at 798 Washington Street and at 10 Prospect Street, currently known as Chuck Steakhouse. It is owned by BKRG JT Inc. We had an appraisal done on the property when we found out that the property was going up for sale. That appraisal came in at $3.9 million. We began negotiations with the owners south of that number, but ended up, and their target number was higher than that. We ultimately met in the middle. So we do have an agreed price of $4,050,000, and we plan on funding that through a one-time use of free cash, in addition to some demolition costs to bring the building down, and as well as doing an environmental assessment of the property, since we would have to go out and borrow money for the construction of fire headquarters, which would necessitate an environmental assessment anyway. So we plan on bringing this to town meeting on January 30th. We plan on having a series of meetings leading up to the town meeting, one being with our town meeting members, and we would hold a series of meetings, 2 or 3, invite the general public if they should have any questions relative to the project. So that's our game plan. We're seeking your support on this tonight. And if approved, then we've already set a town meeting date for the 30th. The good thing about this is, by purchasing this outright, we would not incur any borrowing cost. And as you well know, the borrowing costs are inching higher and higher. I think the long-term borrowing cost is probably around 5.25%. That translates to a lot of money over a period of 10 years. So we're attempting to do this to save the taxpayers money in the long run. So I'd be happy to answer any questions if you should.
Just to clarify, would the vote at town meeting be to actually purchase the property, or would the vote be to move forward with the project to build it on the property because it'll already be purchased?
So the vote would be to purchase the property. We would then, town meeting did vote at the fall town meeting a sum of $100,000 to begin another design for fire headquarters only on the west side of town. There was a motion to change that. Knowing that we were considering potentially an acquisition of this property. That was not known at the time, but we didn't want to limit ourselves strictly to West Street. So if this should pass, we'd begin design, we would then go back to town meeting in May. There were two things that would need to be done. One, we would have to get authorization by town meeting to borrow a sum of money to construct a new fire headquarters on the Chuck site, subject to a ballot question, debt exclusion vote approved by the voters.
I get a separate related question, assuming everything gets passed, which, have you talked to them, because we may not build the building for 2 years or 3 years or whatever. Has there been any discussion about renting the facility back to them while they're waiting to find a new location?
That's a great question. Actually, we considered that. We thought maybe, first of all, I had discussions with the owner, one of the owners, who indicated they were looking to relocate and downsize. And they would like to stay in Auburn, but they're considering a number of sites which they didn't disclose. Since we entered into the letter of intent, they would like to close on the property as soon as possible and leave the site. So they have no interest in leasing back from us for a period of time. That's not an option for them right now.
Because I know they were advertising, for parties and such in 2024. So I don't know when the closing date was, or whether they're just hedging
So I
their
think
bets.
there is a suggested date of early April. So we would have to go through town meeting, and then we would have to do our due diligence in order to prepare to close for an April date. Now, I'm sure that there's some flow to that number, but that's the targeted closure date.
Any additional discussions or questions?
So, sorry. What would happen with the West Street spot where the fire is? Would that just go to the school department?
So, we are having some discussions with the schools. I know they would like to program some preschool programs that are currently existing in other schools that may offer an opportunity for them to do some modifications to the existing West Street Randall building to accommodate for that, to free up space at some of their other facilities, but nothing concrete yet. If not that, we may just peel back the fire, remove the fire portion, and school admin would be allowed to remain where they are right now. So the good thing about this is we wouldn't have to consider any relocation costs, which approached about $4 million that would have been added to the project if we were to build on West Street. So not only are we saving money by amending this, but we're saving money by not relocating operations for a period of time.
Any other questions? So, as a motion for this committee, the motion would have to be for us recommend going away from 1 year from the free cash current policy, or how does the motion?
So that's a great question. So I guess the motion would be to allow for a one-time amendment, non-precedent setting, for free cash to free up money for the acquisition cost of the property, as well as provide money for demolition in an environmental assessment. The cost, we are seeking a cost on the demolition. We don't know, they have to go inside the building to see if there's anything of concern in the building. It's, let's call it asbestos or anything else. We don't believe there is anything there, but that could change the price of the demolition. So I can't give you a concrete number now, because I can tell you what the acquisition price is, but I don't know what the other costs are gonna be. I don't expect that they'll exceed 250,000 combined. It could be less, all depending on the material that they have to remove. Once that purchase is made, it was going to revert to the language that's currently in existence for the free cash policy. And I think that has been provided to you, the existing policy?
Yes. And you said that's not precedent setting, say that we have had a similar, this has happened in the past that we've.
No, this has not happened in the past. No, this would be the first time.
This would be a first, okay.
Because the free cash policy only allows for 50% of the net gain. This exceeds that. The expense that we are requesting does qualify under the free cash policy, but it exceeds that 50% of net gain.
My question is, are we voting to amend the policy, or are we voting to recommend that town meeting amend the policy?
No, you are amending the policy.
Great. For motion purposes, yeah. I move that we amend the free cash policy to allow for a one-time exception for the appropriation of a sum of money above the 50% allowable annual gain for the acquisition of property located at 10 Prospect Street, 798 Washington Street, currently owned by BKRJT Inc., Chuck Steakhouse, not less than $4,050,000, but likely to include both the cost of acquisition and a sum of money for demolition of the existing building and environmental assessment.
We've got the motion, Mike, we just hold that for just 1 second, I just wanted
Yeah.
one more point of clarification. Just to do our due diligence here, are there any, while I think this is a great thing, as having chaired that public safety, we realized the problem we ran into was the land. We just didn't have a place, of all the things we saw and all the recommendations we had made, the land was the piece that I think in the early days we should have been focusing on and not on the structures. So I think this is a great use of the money. I think it's a great use of the taxpayers' dollars that they've already spent. It doesn't impact them for additional monies to get that piece of land to be that starting point for design and other things. So I think it's a great thing. I just want to ensure that for this committee, that there's not going to be any adverse things that are going to occur by amending this policy relative to ratings or additional tax problems down the road.
We have the policy in place to build up our reserves, and certainly we have done that. Our free cash balance at June 30th was 21 million and change. We used about a little over $1 million at the fall town meeting. So we have about 20.3 million available. This would bring it down to a level of 16.3. Our policy allows for the use of 50%, provided that our unassigned balance is at a certain benchmark of our operating revenues. Right now, the unassigned fund balance is, as of June 30th, was roughly 37%. So by drawing down by 4 million, it puts us at 40, it will put us at roughly 31% of operating revenues, far above the 20, and we revert back, so we're gonna climb back up. I think the rating agencies would see this as a prudent move, a good financial decision, because we're not incurring debt and interest costs for something that we currently have available. So I don't see that having an adverse effect on our rating at all.
And thank you. Certainly, I mean, I applaud you and all your staff that we're in a position that we have a free cash amount like that, you know, projects like this can move forward, and the fiscal responsibility that I've seen in the time that I've been on this committee, certainly, when we hear these reports from town meeting that you present, it's kind of amazing compared to our neighboring communities, so.
I would also like to tell you, we still have $5 million in our stabilization account that we're not planning on drawing from. So that's a positive thing, too. So, I mean, we could have dipped into that as well, but we decided not to.
Thank you.
I'll second that motion.
I think we have a motion and a second. All in favor? We can just.
Great. Thank you for your support. And we'll keep you informed. The warrant is open. It's going to close out on Monday, so we'll have a sense as to, we believe that the warrant articles will be limited to the acquisition, but I can't say that with certainty. We'll let you know what's on the radar screen, and then this matter will be before you sometime in January for the Finance Committee to take a position on the warrant article. Great. Thank you. Okay.
So I talked to a few people who heard or read an article that it was in the works, and, you know, they spoke about how that's a good property for taxes for a business, so I just think the points, like you said, like the relocation money you'd be saving by not having to build where you already are, that's gonna be a big point to bring up at the town meeting to let people know. You're spending $4 million, but we're also saving almost the same amount, so, yeah, that'll go a long way.
A great point, and I think that was part of the strategy in educating not only the general public, because ultimately this is going to the voters of our community, is a debt exclusion vote. I think a project of that magnitude, and we know what the joint public safety facility was, it had a price tag of $78 million, not including all the relocation expenses and some of the other costs associated with building on West Street. Certainly, that translates to savings. This project is probably going to come in less than half of that. You know, that's more palatable to the voters. But certainly, even though we can fund it through the tax levy now, because we have excess levy, we believe it should be up to the voters, so.
I think, you know, positive, like, you talk about the positive feedback from the communities, the fact that the Randall School becomes the Randall School in effect again. I think people can certainly get behind that. It really, fire did a lot to it, but in the end, you know, you could probably put kids right back in that cafeteria, and, you know, it's still the Randall School to most people in town, I think, so.
And we know we have some growth on that side of town as a result of Eastland Partners, and we may have to utilize West Street for educational purposes as a result of that growth spurt. But that's discussion we'll have to have with the superintendent and the school committee as time goes on.
Somebody at town meeting is going to ask this question, so I'll ask it now. How much are we losing in property tax on that property?
It's not as much as you think. So I believe the assessed value is about $1.3 million. So maybe $16,000 in taxation. But you gotta remember, if they relocate to another location, the value of that restaurant is probably gonna be greater than the value of where it is right now.
And based upon that, is our economic team trying to assist them to stay within the community, based on that?
I think we put the watering board techniques, we apply there, so yeah, we're doing what we can to have them remain in town. Certainly, they've been a great business, and, you know, I know the owners, and they expressed that they would like to remain if they can, so we're doing what we can to entice that to happen. Okay?
Thank you.
All right, thank you, appreciate your vote. Thanks.
Okay, we'll move on to the, what was our second item, which was look at some transfers. Actually, quite a few transfers. It's supposed to be a quick meeting, you know, these off-season meetings. We'll do our best to get through. Okay, first transfer up, interdepartment transfer, is for DDIS code, coming from the clerical account Amount requested, $5,385 going to the animal control salary account. Reason given to cover a salary deficit. Any questions on this one? I do have a quick question for you, Darlene, if you don't mind, Ms. Boyle. Why do we have such a large deficit on one salary account like that? Because
Sure. Good evening. Thank you for the question. So when we were doing the budget last year, the tax levy portion was actually an error on my part. So put it in for tax levy. If you see at the bottom of the budget book, there's a note for what the total salary is, with $4,500 coming over from dog fine account. So that has to be voted at town meeting. So it was just an error on my part. My apologies.
motion second, all in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Okay, coming in for the fire department.
I motion that we take the next 4 transfers as one, since they're all coming out of the firefighter salary account.
We have a motion to take these 4 coming from the same account as one. We have a motion and a second, all in favor? Aye. Okay, I'll read them as we go through. They're all coming from the firefighter salary account. First amount, $489, going to the chief holiday account. Reason given to clear up deficit in account. Next one, $1,064, I believe that is, going to the deputy chief salary holiday account. Reason given to clear up deficit. Next one, $862, going to the deputy education stipend, also to clear up a deficit in that account. And the last one, $2,523, going to the deputy investigation stipend, again, to clear up a deficit. Any questions?
I guess just the same question. Is this a contractual change, or is like cost of living?
This is due to the annual 1% increase COLA.
Motion a second, all in favor?
Aye. Thanks.
Police Department, a transfer coming from the patrol account, amount requested $25,000, going to technology support, reason given vendor service cost increase, 9% / budget shortfall. Do, Deputy Chief, want to speak on this one?
Good evening. Long after FY '24 was already approved and had gone through all the boards, we were informed, I want to say in May, that our primary IT support company, which is Global Data Systems, GDS, they, across the board, went up 9%. And there was really no way around that. That and what was budgeted for Central Square, which is our records management package, I'm formerly IMC, they also went up. So that line was not sufficient for what we budgeted. We have, the CFO and I have been working on a plan to try and get some cost certainty moving forward, in FY '25, definitely. And we're starting to review a lot of different items that they are taking care of to make sure that we're being billed properly, and the amount of email addresses that we have to archive and pay for, I was shocked by. It's almost 5 times as many people as we actually employ. I'm sorry, 3 times as many people as we actually employ. Well over 120 email addresses. So, and that's not the only cost, but, so we've had a couple of online meetings with GDS trying to determine, moving forward and whether or not we decide to enter into a 3 or 5 year contract, with known increases. So as of right now, they're telling us there will be no increases that they foresee going into FY '25, but.
Nice. I like that.
We weren't on a contract when they raised these prices?
I'm sorry?
We weren't on a contract already when they raised these prices?
No, they are on the state bid as far as a vendor for the, within the state, so they're approved on the state bid list, but there is there was or is no contract in place with them. They're just a vendor that we use, and what I'm concerned about is I don't want to get into a situation where we're switching every single year and we're being held hostage, so to speak, by, by IT companies, because, they're put out that we're moving on from them, and, I don't want to just keep circulating to a low bid situation, and, but I definitely want some certainty as far as what the costs are. I think we all do.
I'll comment, I know we had brought this up, I think, at one of our previous year meetings relative to the contracts and concerns about this, but, and it may be just as a general question, so Karen and stuff, but I'm always sort of interested that different departments are managing their own IT stuff, contracts and cloud storage, and it seems like that should be, to some degree, centralized. I realize the budget line items need to reflect the costs per department, but things like email addresses and, long-term storage, it seems like those should be managed on a town-wide level, whether it's through a secure cloud. I think Amazon has a big secure municipal state cloud now that it just seems like something we should be looking for the future, and it sounds like there may be some discussions. I understand there's got to be some higher level of security on the public safety side of things, but I think there are options out there that combine both. But that's just my comment on that, but I understand the shortfalls. Any other questions? Any motion on that one?
Motion to approve?
Motion is second, all in favor? Chair votes yes. Chief, so we have it just quickly, the next one's from the Patrol Quinn account. Amount requested $14,758.70, going to the educational stipend account. Reason given, change in contractual obligations patrol officers. Can you just explain the difference between the Quinn, which is historically a education account, going to an educational stipend account?
Absolutely. The Quinn bill is actually no longer the Quinn bill, but the Quinn bill is a educational incentive for police officers, and it's a percentage based. So it's 25% for a master's degree, 20% for a bachelor's degree, 15%, I think it's 10 or 15% for an associate's degree. The town, through contractual negotiations, is trying to move away, or is moving away and phasing out some of us older people that are still entitled to Quinn benefits and Quinn payments. So they've instituted, we have a two-tier system now, at least, and they have a new educational incentive which pays $2,500, $5,000, and $7,500 for those respective degrees. And in essence, the numbers are very similar. The deficit that's in the educational incentive line is very similar to what the surplus is, because a couple of Quinn eligible police officers retired. So, and through some discussions, with the CFO, with the town manager, the chief was allowed to extend some educational benefits to a few officers that we hadn't anticipated getting them this fiscal year. So.
Thank you. Questions? Motion? Motion approved? Second. Motion is second, all in favor?
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Okay, this one comes from the DPW fleet maintenance account. The account is fleet overtime. Amount requested $624. Going to the education account. Reason given, additional safety training. Any questions?
Motion approved?
Motion is second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. DPW cemetery, from the office supplies account. Amount requested, actually, do we have? No, okay, we'll just go. Amount requested $427.70, going to the education account. Reason given, needed for safety training.
Motion approved?
Motion is second, all in favor?
Aye.
The DPW parks, the account name is field maintenance. Amount requested $855. I don't know what that was. $855.40, going to the education account. Reason given, needed for safety training. Questions?
Motion approved?
Motion second, all in favor?
Aye.
From the DPW engineering, from the civil engineer 2 account, amount requested $4,188.60 going to the civil engineer. Reason given, this transfer will eliminate the deficit in this account. Any questions on,
Just similar to earlier, is there any way you could?
can you just give us some clarification on it?
Yes, hello. So that account, we just hired 2 new civil engineers, so I believe that makes up for the difference in the pay that was offered to those positions.
So just different, the civil engineer too, is that someone that would have been a higher step, these are coming in at a lower step, but you need to fund that account, is that how?
No, I think it's vice versa. I'll have to see, you're saying it was going into the civil 2 account?
It's coming from civil two, going into civil engineer without a number.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not positive the exact reason for that one. My assumption would be that it was due to the fact that we just hired 2 civil engineers, and it makes up for that discrepancy, but I guess I'm not positive.
The hiring, I think that
Yeah.
answers my question. Motion approved? Second. Motion and second, all in favor? Aye. DPW Highway, Stormwater Engineer Aid, amount requested $35,000, going to the wages account. And this one also says to transfer will eliminate the deficit in the account.
Same reason.
Same, that's,
Going into the wages account, correct? Sorry, I'm
Different code, but yeah, it's the wages account.
Karen, do you know on that one, is that the wages for, is that the general wages account for DPW employees, or?
For the highway,
for highway?
yes.
Yeah, I apologize, I guess I'm not certain what this particular transfer was for. I wasn't involved in this one. So I can't answer that question.
Karen, did you have any insight onto it, just
Nick, is this for also one of the positions that was just recently hired? This, the stormwater engineer aide?
This is coming out of stormwater engineer wage and into highway wages, is that correct?
Yes.
Yeah, so this would be for, the highway workers' wages account. I'm not certain why there was the $35,000 deficit in that account. I don't have that information.
additional questions? It's a larger number. Usually when there's larger numbers, we like to have some explanation, but.
Yeah, I apologize, I do not have that information.
Do we want to defer this to the next meeting so we can get some
Table,
additional
I motion that we table this particular transfer till the next meeting.
Okay. Is it, a motion and a second to table this one for a future
I
meeting?
could potentially, I could make a phone call and see if I can get some information.
Table
I
it
motion that we wait on this one and maybe come back to it in a little bit.
There you go.
down the stack and come back to it if you can get us
Thanks.
an answer. That'd be great.
Yeah,
Thank you.
appreciate it.
Retract my motion, I guess. Let's
Retract
just
the
move
motion
on.
and-
Let's just move on.
Tab there.
Kevin can do whatever he wants about the order of things, not the money.
Also, DPW Highway, coming from the traffic paint account, amount requested $2,750.16, going to the clerical account, to eliminate the deficit in the clerical account. We have a motion and a second, all in favor? These are all coming from the same,
I move that we take the next 7 transfers, all coming out of the contingency account as one. Are they different departments? I move that we take the next 4 transfers, all coming out of the contingency account for the DPW sewer division. As one.
okay, we have a motion and a second, all in favor? Okay. DPW Sewer Commission, these 4 come from the contingency account. First amount requested, $18, salary DPW Director, 1% increase. Next one, $37, going to operations manager, another 1% increase for the reason. Next one, $834, going to the salary superintendent account, also for 1%. And the last one, $2,735, going to the clerical account, and that one is reason given an employee wage adjustment. I guess, Karen, could you just, because I know there's, going forward, there's a bunch that are, give the reason given as the 1% salary adjustment. Can you just kind of cover what that is for us now, and then we won't have to ask that question for each individual one?
Absolutely, sure. So the non-union employees usually get a 3%, which is made up of a 2%, which is included in the budget, and then a 1% based upon a performance evaluation, which is in the salary wage reserve, or in this case, because it's an enterprise fund, it's in the sewer contingency. And you'll see that under the cable as well. It's in the cable because that's an enterprise. And if there's anything for golf, that would be the same way.
Thank you. Motion approved? Motion and second, all in favor?
Aye.
Ready for us? Okay, this is going back to, we don't have an injury account for this finance committee. Back to the question relative to the stormwater engineer aid, $35,000 to the wages account.
Yes, thank you. Sorry for the delay. So earlier in the year, a new position had been created in the facilities maintenance division, and that created a hole in the wages account. This is to fill that hole in order to backfill that position.
Thank you. Any
Yep.
questions?
I'll make a motion to approve.
I have one additional, and I'm sorry, maybe I should have asked this before you made your phone call.
Okay.
but, Stormwater engineer aid, do we know what that account is? And we're taking it from $35,000 down to $150. Is that likely to be sufficient to get us through the year?
Yes, I believe that determination was made, that that would not cause an issue.
I will take it.
Thank you.
Motion approved?
Motion and second, all in favor?
Aye.
Unanimous?
Thanks. I move that we take the next three transfers as one, since they're all coming from the contingency account for the golf course.
Okay, we have motion and second to take the next three coming from contingency as one. All in favor? Aye. Okay, from the golf course, all three coming from the contingency account. The first amount requested is $26 going to the director account for the 1% increase due to successful evaluation. The next one, $275 going to groundskeeper. That is to provide salary through the end of the fiscal year. And the last one, $8,902 going to the superintendent account to provide salary through the end of the fiscal year. Any questions? We have one, Michael? No?
Motion approved.
A motion, we have a motion. Second. A motion second, all in favor?
Aye.
Community television's next department, coming from the contingency account. Amount requested $6,962, going to the salaries account. Reason given to provide for departmental employee salaries through fiscal year end.
Motion approved?
We have a motion and a second, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay, I believe these are all coming from salary wage reserve, this additional packet we have here. Okay, the request coming from the town manager. The account is the town manager clerical account, amount requested $534. Reason given, 1%, the 1% wage adjustment.
Motion approved?
Motion second, all in favor? Aye. The accountant's department, from salary wage reserve, coming from accountant clerical, amount requested $2,208. Reason given, a wage adjustment during fiscal year 2024.
Before I make my motion, I have one question, and I don't know if Sharon knows the answer, but these are all from salary wage. Is it possible to combine these transfers since they're all from the same account and related to the same thing? All right, let me just take a quick look if nobody minds.
No.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. Just want to make sure they all say the same reason before I make a motion that includes everything. I move that we take the rest of the transfers in this packet coming out of salary wage reserve, all of which appear to be related to wage adjustments for fiscal year 2024, as one.
Motion to, in a second, take the remaining transfer request coming out of salary wage reserve as one. All in favor?
Aye.
I've already read the accountant clerical, $2,208. This was due to a wage adjustment during FY '24. Next request for the accountant's department also, coming from the accountant CFO line.
Going to the accountant CFO.
What's that?
Going to accountant.
Going to the accountant CFO line. The amount requested, $1,215. Human resources, going to the human resource salary line. Amount requested, $2,399. Reason for the 1% wage adjustment. From human resources again, going to the human resource director / assistant town manager line. Amount requested, $1,522 for a reason given for a 1% wage adjustment from the successful evaluation. From MIS, going to the MIS director line. Amount requested, $806. This is also for the 1% wage adjustment. From the planning department, going to planning salary. Amount requested, $968 for the reason given for the 1% wage adjustment. From the police department, going to the police clerical line. Amount requested, $1,063. This is to provide for salaries through fiscal year end due to adjustment. From public safety dispatch, going to the communication director's line. Amount requested, $1,133. This is for the 1% wage adjustment. From the code enforcement, going to building commission / assistant director salary. Amount requested, $1,222. This is for a 1% wage adjustment. From code enforcement, going to the local inspector line. Amount requested, $935. This also is for a 1% wage adjustment. From the DPW town engineer, going to engineer salary line. Amount requested, $1,101. This is for a 1% wage adjustment also. From DPW highway, going to the assistant DPW director line. Amount requested, $79. This is for a 1% wage adjustment. From solid waste department, going to the coordinator / staff assistant. Amount requested, $981. This is a wage adjustment during FY 2024. From solid waste, going to the DDIS director support. Amount requested, $199. $199. This is for a 1% wage adjustment. From the cemetery department, going to the superintendent's salary line. Amount requested, $49. This is for a 1% wage adjustment. From cemetery, going to the engineer-GIS line. Amount requested, $37. This is for a 1% wage adjustment. From health, going to the sanitarian salary. Amount requested, $1,350. This is for a 1% wage adjustment. From the Council on Aging, going to the director salary. Amount requested, $1,043. This is for a 1% wage adjustment. And our final one, also from Council on Aging, going to the program coordinator line. Amount requested, $530. This is also is for a 1% wage adjustment. Any questions relative to these requests?
Motion to approve?
Motion and a second. All in favor?
Hey,
Thank you. Okay, the next item on is to have a discussion that was presented by the town accountant and CFO relative to the ability to approve transfers in between meetings up to the amount of $250. Karen, did you want to discuss your request, and we can have a discussion on that?
I wanted to ask the Finance Committee if they would be amenable to doing the transfers up to $250, not just at the year end, but during the year, because there's just different smaller items that come up, say like training or dues or something like that, that we just would need a transfer for. So I just wanted to ask if the committee would feel comfortable with allowing me to go to the $250 during the full fiscal year. And just to say too, I will give the committee a list of any of the transfers that I approve, just so that you can see what departments they're from and what they're for during the year.
Do we have any questions relative to the
Yes, the question is, how many times how many of those do you think you would do?
I don't think there's really that many, but there was one for the cemetery that came up earlier in the year, and we weren't meeting like during the summer months. I believe it was either for training or dues. So it's just more for the convenience of the time period. There's really not that many, and if we happen to see that there's, more and you feel uncomfortable with that during the year, when I give you the spreadsheet, we can certainly bring it up again and discuss it.
So like this thing we just did with the what's called salary wage reserve account, right? So there's a bunch in here that are under 250. So like those are the things that you would just handle directly, right?
Well, I guess I would look to the
Formally.
committee for advice on that, because something from the salary wage reserve, you may want to see, even though it's smaller than that. But if that's fine with the committee, we can take care of those small items as well.
I mean, it is something, I'll say that we do over the summer months. Where we don't have typical meetings. I think that we would want some sort of guidelines relative to, I agree, if there's something that can wait till the next meeting, I don't think there's any point in, I guess we would just, something like we had a bunch of salaries, we would just sort of leave. I think I would want to see it, maybe, if we allow it to something we'd maybe renew on an annual basis, to maybe see whether that amount was a sufficient amount, or that it worked well or not. And also, I would also ask, and I think we'd had a discussion offline, relative that there wouldn't be any, I guess, stacking, if you will, that the department would ask for, needed 1,000, and they put in four, $249 requests that got them to a larger amount. And you said that wouldn't be the case. You would save those for, it would be for these one-time, someone needs to go to a class and they put $40 in it, or they need a safety license and that account is diminished. We don't want them to go without a licensure in between meetings, stuff of that nature, I guess.
Generically, correct me if I understand this correctly, we have a bank account which has the money in it, and then we have an accounting system, which is all internal. So all of the codes are actually internal. It's not actual money in a particular account, correct?
No, it actually is. It actually is the appropriation in the account. It's not really a bank account.
Right.
But it's a budget line item, correct.
It's a double-entry bookkeeping account. So when we're transferring, like all these transfers, we're basically just transferring from our own general ledger within our own general ledger.
That is correct.
So it's from A to B to C to D. We've already appropriated and taxed and forecasted and everything. So this is really just more of a housekeeping thing, which everybody is keeping an eye on, primarily to not go over the budget, because that's where I assume we run into issues if people are spending more than they were allocated.
Absolutely, and that's one of the the goals of the, finance committee is to consider these transfers and make sure they think that they're for a valid reason, and don't allow any expenditures over the line items until the transfers are approved. And yes, like the chair said, I will make sure that when I look at the transfers, that I don't see any departments that are trying to just go under the amount. And, in that case, I won't approve it, and I will bring it to the finance committee.
Personally, I'm comfortable with intra-department, like the same types of transfers we talked, like the first packet today, intra-departmental. If it's already been budgeted to that department and they just want to use it in a slightly different way, I feel like that makes sense. But I think I agree with the statement that you made, that salary reserve or reserve account transfers probably make sense to continue to come to us at whatever the next regularly scheduled meeting is. Does that make sense?
It does, yeah.
I don't know how you would feel if we want to just keep it within the department, say, for example, like DDIS has several departments that they oversee. If they want to go from, say, like animal control into code enforcement or something like that, is that it, do you want to just limit it to within a particular department for the 250 for now?
It's like like the divisions within a department?
Right. Or,
I mean, I don't think.
Yeah, I think that's reasonable if
Right.
Darlene needed to take money to send someone to a safety course from one division, one of her,
Especially given that we have some, especially in the DDIS, which is probably the one with the most divisions, we have some positions in DPW that are funded out of multiple divisions. I feel like it probably makes sense to limit it to department, but not division. But
How does the school do it? Do you know, out of curiosity?
I'm sorry, say that again?
How does the school do it?
Well, they have bottom line authority on that, so they can exceed their line items, but the school business manager does bring it to the school committee to move it between line items every so often. But they have the bottom line authority on that.
I mean, generically, isn't that what the manager's job is? You know what I mean? Like I think about that even on this, we're moving a lot more than $250. It's still based on the word of the manager. So the manager obviously is Johnny on the spot. They're the only ones that would know that it needed to be done. And we're just responding to their reality, essentially. So I don't have a problem with the 250 myself, but.
Any other questions? Anybody think they could formulate a motion with all those requests?
let's see how this goes. I move that the Finance Committee authorize the town accountant CFO to approve intra-departmental transfers of up to $250 cumulatively cumulatively per transfer, into or out of any particular account through the end of fiscal year 2024, and to report to the Finance Committee each meeting on any transfers that have occurred since the prior meeting.
Except payroll?
Intra-departmental is in there, so that would,
But except payroll? Or are we keeping payroll?
I mean, most of our,
I thought that's true, most of the stuff was payroll issues.
I think, well, and most of the wage accounts are where we're paying, and they're already in, like, on the department byline, but, yeah. I wasn't gonna add that, but if it's something we're concerned about, I'm happy to.
That sounds good. I'll second your motion.
Okay, we have a motion on the floor and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, thank you.
Sharon, I'll give you this. I'm not sure it's written exactly the way I said it, but it's close enough.
That's official. You can translate it later.
I can hold it over here. It's easier.
Okay, so that, other than we had some minutes that Sharon had provided for us. If there's no questions on the minutes, we'll consider those to be accepted as were presented to us. Do we have an idea of when we meet again?
At least a week before January 30th, right?
Probably before then.
We'll hear because of the recommendation on the free cash, right? That's going to be, before that town meeting, we'll probably have some, do you think we'll meet before? For the warrant, right? So,
So maybe before the town meeting?
yeah, we'll have to approve the warrant.
Yeah, we'll have to,
Make a
we'll have to
rec-
make a
we'll have to
recommendation on the warrant
warrant.
item, but we could either meet right before, we've done that before, for big town meetings, or we could just meet at some other time.
Well, the warrant has to be mailed 2 weeks before special with the Finance Committee's recommendation.
we should probably
So,
meet at least 2 weeks before the meeting.
mid-January, maybe,
Mid-January.
depending on what the meeting schedule is.
Okay.
for the-
Well, we know that we'll be mid-January, then we can wait to hear back from Karen or Ed on
Yeah.
the timing of that. We'll just know, as long as we know there's one coming up, it's beneficial.
The warrant will be the same language as what we just approved?
There may be other articles submitted before the deadline of next week, so I'm not sure that there
It'll probably be
will
different,
be.
because it'll actually be approving the appropriation, not the approval, because we just approved the policy change. So it'll be an approval of the actual, yeah, appropriation, but not significantly so.
Anybody else have any other questions or items before we adjourn?
Motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn?
Second.
Second? All in favor?
Aye.
Very good.